Hey Collective, it's Al and welcome back to Altruistic Channels and to Al Altruistic Channels Arevalo. Today's video is going to be kind of something that seems to start off a little morbid but then becomes something very sublime. And I decided to look at Mother Nature and some of the indications that she's been kind of sending out to the world that things are about to shift very dramatically. And specifically in California, I have this feeling, as you guys know, that there's a big earthquake about to happen. And if I was an educated man, which I am, I would say that, let's say towards the end of the month, say around possibly the Scorpio new moon, the Scorpio full moon. And the reason I say that is that I don't know if many of you know this, but Scorpio in the zodiac is known as the test. It is the beginning of the testing phase. And it's kind of known to be one of those things that it's very, very jarring at times. As many of you know, Scorpios are people who are all about loyalty and so forth. So I decided to look at it from a more uplifting standpoint. Transitions by nature are a little complicated. They bring a lot of change to your environment, and specifically I've been getting a lot of dreams, if you will, about Northern California, specifically the San Francisco area on some place called Cascadia. And the reason I know that is because I kept getting the information of Cascade. It's going to be a cascade of events, and I'm just like, I looked it up, and sure enough, there's been a lot of small earthquakes. And so you guys know that I had been warning for about 6 months now that we were due for one. And so instead of worrying about the melee that comes with earthquakes, because they're jarring and you can't really predict them, I decided to focus kind of on what I've done in my life to deal with transition phase or transitional phasing. And so what I wanted to speak to was, I have this thing where whenever there is a situation that is out of my control, I do a what-if scenario run, which for strategists is kind of common, but a lot of people do this in corporate structures. But as far as your own life, what I have learned to do for myself, at least, is I've learned to focus on the positive of all negative, right? And so, especially for, like, let's say, a turquoise leadership, one of the things that we would look at would be, how do we reassure people in areas that are prone to disasters like Tornado Alley or Hurricane Central, or I'm from New Orleans, so y'all know I'm used to those. But lately in Louisiana, we've had a lot of tornadoes that are uncommon for our region. And so as the climate evolves and changes, we've started to notice that Tornado Alley has moved into Louisiana, which is not how it was when I was a kid. And so in those regions and in places like California, where I am right now, we are prone to things that can happen. And so instead of focusing just on that, the turquoise leadership would look at how to help people transition in times of true change. And so because I am so aware of the earthquake that's coming and the possibility that I myself might not even make it through it, it's a real thing that all people in California, I mean, you have to, I'm not trying to be like all gross and stuff or try to be morbid, but it is a topic that we must address. And so instead of living my life in fear, what I do is I rejoice in every day I have. And you guys know I go out every day and I look at flowers and I go and I look at the environment I'm in, and I kind of do my goodbyes, which is kind of strange. It's not that I'm looking down like I want negative things to happen, but our planet is changing, and so the avoidance of the topic is what's going to make it a lot more jarring to people. And so what I do is I go out and I observe trees and I get to know people. Anyone I meet, I make sure that I give them my attention. And like this weekend, I'm going to spend a lot of time at the beach because I do feel innately that the earthquake is very close. And so for me, everyone that I'm going to come in contact this weekend with at the beach, I'm dying for a margarita, and I don't normally drink. As you guys know, I was a bartender for a long time, so drinking isn't my thing. But I'm going to probably treat myself to a margarita this weekend and just go and sit at the beach with a margarita and enjoy a sunset. And the reason I do that is because instead of focusing on the imminent dangers that are this last part of the year, and these tests that we're going to be going through, I decided to focus on what a turquoise leadership would do, which is to focus on how to bring light out of darkness. And so I decided that I would share with you guys a little thing that I've done in the past I think might be rewarding for all of you. Have you ever decided to take your family or your circle of friends, even with this whole social distancing thing that everybody's all about, I'm not going to get into that right now, but I'm just going to say this. If you knew that you were living in your last days, why would you avoid the people closest to you? Why would you avoid your friends and your family? I had written an article not that long ago, that had stated, if you knew that might be the last Christmas that you had with your family, why would the P word keep you from being there with your family? Why would you let them have that last Christmas by themselves? And so it had kind of bummed me out, because people were just so afraid that they wouldn't even spend time with their families, and a lot of our elders are not coming through. And so instead of getting bummed about it, I decided that I would focus my energies on a solution for myself and share that with you all now. And what it was is, when you are facing stuff like that, wouldn't it be nice to focus on the joy of each day you have, as though you are living in your last days? And so when I go out and I do this stuff where I go and I just look at trees, or I go with nature, or I go for very long walks, and I observe my surroundings. I try to remember every building. I try to remember every person I run into, and I invest my time in speaking to anybody who wants to speak to me. Because many people, if I make it, will not make it. And if I don't make it, they'll remember me. And it's a way of building a really, really beautiful legacy when you honor another soul with giving them your attention, no matter how random it is that they approach you. And what I'd like to do with you all is to share with you something that I think is very important for those of you who have families. Spend this weekend with them, doing a picnic. Invite your really, really close friends. If you have to be 6 feet apart from each other, then do it. But spend the day doing something that brings you joy, something that makes you laugh. If your husband is really funny, then this is the time to spend time with him, making you laugh. Stupid little shit that doesn't matter to anybody else but makes you giggle like a little schoolgirl. Or if you're the husband, spend time with your wife, because she's brilliant and she knows something that you may not know of. And just listen to her talk about a topic that she's interested in right now. And remember every word that she's saying. And remember what the relationship is with you. If it's dysfunctional, make sure that it's a good swing day where it's like everything's working out well. I mean, you can't really control it to the T, but you see what I'm saying. Spend the time with your partner this weekend and remember why you're in love with them. Remember every moment and every nuance. Have that intimate moment that comes from really releasing your bullshit and what you're angry about and all that stuff, and put it on the side for the weekend. Whatever is about to happen, especially in California, specifically Cascadia, just know that this is a weekend that I'm telling you, spend time with your family. If your children are around, I mean, obviously if you have kids, they're going to be involved, make sure that you have art supplies for them. Make sure that you bring up some music for them to listen to. Make sure you bring hula hoops and balls, whatever it is. And whatever you're going through right now, do me a favor. Put it to the side. We don't know how long we have on this planet. And instead of being morbid about it, let's rejoice in the everyday. So what I would suggest with your friends is, if you can, have your kids near you, because I really want everybody to spend as much time with each other as possible right now, and towards the end of the month, especially in California. There's a trickle effect. Once the dominoes goes, and it goes across the world. But for those of you that are listening to this, take your friends with you, and let them play, especially if they don't have any kids. Let them play with kids, like throw the ball back and forth, and have cocktails. Be responsible, don't drive, but like go somewhere where you can walk to, where everybody's like a neighborhood thing, and you all just go 6 feet apart, and you have a little picnic, and you guys socialize and chit chat. It doesn't matter if you don't necessarily like everybody. It's just people that you want in your vicinity. And don't pay attention to anybody who rubs you the wrong way. Pay attention to the people who rub you the right way, and listen to them. Actually listen to their quirkiness. If you used to have this block to someone because she's really out there, like I get a lot of comments from people who are like, my sister-in-law is all spiritual and she's driving me nuts, and she's like all frou-frou, and I asked two people actually recently. I said, have you spent time listening to what she's saying instead of focusing on the eccentricity? And they're like, no. I got an email back. Oh my God, she's brilliant. I love her. Spend the time getting to know people. They're in your life for a reason. And during this period where we're going to be going through a lot of transitions, Why not celebrate every moment? And the reason I say this is because when the ultimate transition happens for the collective, and this is a topic for the turquoise leadership, when you focus your attention on the good memories, you can agree on a destination for the family in a very, very uplifting way. God forbid something happen to any of us in our families. But if it does, have you picked a hereafter point? Have you picked a memory that all of you unite in joy in and say, if anything happens, we're going to meet at that location and I will wait for you to get there. And what you do is you just simply say, if you're coming, because a lot of people are going to be fine. But if you're not, why not leave your family with the ultimate destination point, a memory that is fond and joyful, and so that if it happens, you guys can meet somewhere and the family can move on together. That's something very, very sweet. And I know that it sounds very morbid, but just trust Al. I know what I'm talking about. I've been right, and I'm only going to say this one last time. I've been right about all of the earthquakes and volcanoes that have happened. Take the time this weekend to rejoice in your life. If you have a car and you can't pay for gas right now, then don't. Take them to the neighborhood park. Sit at the park, bring an umbrella, sit in the shade, enjoy their laughter, enjoy what they say, spend time actually engaging people in your environment. If you are that petrified of death, then why not start rejoicing in the process? Talk about your life with your partner, talk about what the future is for your children in a way that's not telling them what to do, but that shares in your joy and telling your legacy. This is one of those weekends, and as we lead up towards the end of the month, where if you have an opportunity, think turquoise. What is your legacy? Do you want to be remembered in joy? Even if nothing happens to you, what is the worst thing that can happen if you tell your family the funniest things that ever happened to you that make them laugh till their belly hurts? Or remember a really embarrassing thing that happens during sex with your husband and that you and your husband just find the kick out of it. Like, the worst thing that can happen is that you celebrate your own life and it reignites that flame that we all need right now. The divine universe is asking us, as a race, to start living again. I don't know if you all have noticed, but we're all starring in something called The Walking Dead. Everybody's so terrified of living their life out of fear of something they can't outrun that they've stopped living, and we were at a reset. Our karma was clean, everything was good. All we had to do was keep going. But the corruptive influence decided to be money hungry and blah 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 blah. Okay, that's them. We're not living. How can we pray for life if we're afraid to live it? How can we enjoy the small, or how can we get bigger things if we don't enjoy the small things? Every day, I choose to make my life beautiful because I know I could be living in my last day. I had a dream, or I didn't make it, that I died in the earthquake. And instead of waking up all afraid of it, you know what I said when I woke up? I'm like, well, ain't that a kick in the ass? After everything. Alright. And then my higher self said, you're not dying, but I want you to start living like you are. And I said, okay. And so I went out and I spent the day sitting and feeding the ducks. I don't know where this is coming from. I'm not a big nature person, but I am now. She's hollering at me. I mean, like, I have Mayan descent, so I'm one of those people that has priests in my family, and I am very, very intuitive. But I spent the day feeding the ducks, and I was listening to my little headphones, because I realized that I have this thing where I'm trying to enjoy every moment like it's my last. But one of the things that truly brings me joy is when I put my headphones on and I can experience like imagery that I'm walking past to music, because it helps me feel a high vibration, and it helps me get a little pep in my step. So what is it that you want your children to know? What is it that you know will make them laugh? What is it that makes you laugh about your children? And engage those things this weekend. You're trying to remember why you're here and that you're fighting for life. Isn't that why we're all running afraid of this P word? It's because we don't want to go. But are you enjoying the now? Are you present for your life right now? I cannot stress this enough. It is all about the change. If you can get yourself at a higher vibration where you are remembering why you're here and what you're fighting for, then anything that comes your way becomes what? Oh, I got this. Shot in the basket. I got it. I live my life without any fear. And everything that happens to you, you're going to be like, get up. Like, if something happens, honestly, you're going to be like, you're going to be like, get off the ground. You're a grown man. Get up. Let's go. We got to walk. Do you have an emergency plan in California? Where is the emergency supplies? What are the phone numbers that you need? Prepare. Be prepared. The worst that can happen is if something happens, y'all roll like this. You go in the car. Blah, blah. I would, by the way, recommend not being on the interstates after, because there's something called aftershocks, and this particular set of events is going to have a very big aftershocks and a tsunami. Instead of being afraid of it, why not be prepared? When you're prepared for something, have you ever noticed that opportunity meets preparation and suddenly life explodes and you suddenly become something you thought you could never be because you were prepared for the moment that life came to you and asked you, hey, it's time to rise. This is one of those moments for the collective. This is one of those moments where if I was speaking to a turquoise leadership, I would say, you need to prepare for the unknown. We do not know how this goes, but we know we are in transition. Instead of being afraid of it, look at it. And when you look at it, you can't be afraid of it anymore because you've confronted the fear. That will open your life up in a new way. And every day that you rejoice in these moments, every day that you laugh out loud, if you're in the car and you can't, obviously you shouldn't be texting and driving or anything like that, why don't you put on one of the iPod specials with Robin Williams talking? And just laugh your ass off all the way to work. Instead of worrying about the traffic, you will be having the best time, and you probably won't want to get out of the car when you get to work. But what have you done to your vibration? What have you done for the world? You've put out, now you walk into your environment after that, and you send out a wave of just beautiful energy, and people want to be like, what's with you? Did you get laid last night? And suddenly you're the belle of the ball. Why? Because you decided to live your life in joy. And so I was thinking about transitions in general, and I remember that one time my mom and I were talking when I was a kid, and it was one of those times where we were about to have a tornado in Louisiana, and I knew it. I had a dream about it, and I told my mom, I'm like, what do we do? And she just looked at me and she goes, well, if something happens, I'm going to be with you, so where would you like to go? And I thought about it. And I told her a memory of mine. And she goes, I like that. Okay. So then why don't we revisit that memory? Why not make that the last memory that we ever have if we have to have that moment? And I've never been afraid of death ever since then. It brought a child's mentality into the conversation in a way that was uplifting. She didn't focus on my fear. She focused on what the solution was, which was, well, we would be together, wouldn't we? And I immediately was like, oh, yeah. She's like, where do you want to go? Where would your last memory, what would you like to focus your energy on? And that's how she phrased it. My mom was super intelligent. Very, 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 very gifted woman. But very, 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 very afraid of her talents. She was a Pisces. And Pisceans have something very, very sacred. They are the last of the zodiac on their way out in the soul's evolution. And so she knew things. One of the only regrets I ever had in my life was that my mother wrote a book about me. And she had always told me, she had always called me her little king. And she wrote this beautiful story. I never read it. I was so busy living my life that I didn't have time for my mom's book. And now as I've gotten older and more of my gifts have come in from my ancestors, I realized that the book was telling me what was to come. But the thing with my mother is she was so passive. She was so sweet. But she always had this thing about she would never overstep her bounds. She knew that at some point I would find out anyway. She said, you'll know about your dad when it's time. You'll know who you are when it's time. She goes, but she would drop hints. It was part of the thing. It's part of the deal with our family. At least on my side. And so she wouldn't tell me what the book was about. She just wanted me to read it, and I never did. And now that my life is panning out, I'm starting to remember little bits that she had talked to me on the phone, because she knew how to leave breadcrumbs. And I just thought about the collective total sum of humanity, and how we have so many beautiful sacred stories, things that we pass from generation to generation to generation. And I just thought, well, isn't this the perfect weekend on a new moon? I think we're still in the new moon energy. To explore your family history with each other and with your friends. These are friends that you would want to meet with, that you would want to invite to that ending barbecue. If you decided that you all went on a vacation to Tahiti together and it was a girls' weekend, well, this is when you call those girls up and you go, hey, let's go out for Mai Tais. And go and make some freaking Mai Tais. Go, just don't drive, but you get my point. Go to the beach, go to a park, sit down, make sure it's closed container, have one, not five, and sit there and catch up on each other's lives. And just spend that time knowing that you're probably going, and bring it up, just very gently, be like, if this was the last time we saw each other, y'all remember the time we went, like Girls Trip? Remember Girls Trip? Remember that one time that we went to New Orleans and we went to where I used to work, the Tropical Isle, and then you peed all over the and just regale in the laughter and bring your whole group's vibration up. And then if something happens, guess what? Your brain will immediately go, ooh, we're going on Girls Trip, and then all of you would meet in the same place. And your souls would just go on. I mean, it's not like we end there. It's just that our evolution in this, we're transitioning. We transition in and out of this experience. We come in birth, and then they slap us, the fucking assholes. And then when we leave, it can be something rather jarring, unless you're ready for it. And you can't ever be prepared to let go unless you've done what I do, which is I live every day like I won't see it again. And instead of being afraid of it, my higher self keeps just saying, you're not going to die, dude. You're not dying. You're not dying. But what am I doing? I have absolutely no fear. To me, it's like a doorway. And that's what I always say to people. How you choose to experience the end transition to something bigger and better is up to you. And it takes your focus and your energy to find the balance for yourself. If you understand yourself innately and you're more scientific, then make it a scientific conversation amongst yourself. Just say, hey, it's just a doorway. What am I going to see on the other side? What do you choose to experience on the other side of that door? What is it that you're choosing to invest your last energy on? And make it something rejoiceful and really wonderful. And so then what I do this weekend, or I'm going to do, is intermittently I'm going to do the preparation work about okay, well, what is the emergency number for a disaster situation in California? Okay. Put it off to the side. Go do something, come back an hour later and go, okay, one more thing. What is my bank account information? And I put that down. And then I already told you guys, I already have a bag. I have 2 bags packed, actually. I have a laptop bag and then just my regular bag. And it has 2 pair of jeans, 2 shirts, and 2... If nothing happens, the worst that can happen is I know where I put my clothes. Because y'all, if you could see my room, I'm one of those people that I put my shit in places and I can't find it, and it's one room. So at least in the bag, I know where it's at. But you see what I'm saying? And even in that moment, I'm having joy in the experience. So I'm like, well, at least I know where my clothes are. Just in case. Because if something, heaven forbid, happens, I'm just going to grab my bag and get the fuck out of Dodge. I'm just, if it's structural or if there's gas or whatever, I'm going to get my shit, I'm going to go. It's not going to be me trying to get through the house, I'm going to be out. And so it just brings it a little bit more of a game quality to it, because you're just like, well, I was ready. Okay. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And your endorphins kick in. Remember, endorphins work in very mysterious ways, right, Turquoise? You can have an endorphin rush that makes you all weirded out, and you're just like, oh my god, I can't, like that. But if you're prepared, then that, I can't, it's like, let's roll. Kids, I don't care. We leave it behind, and you pick them up, and you take them out of the house. There's no hesitation, there's no anything. Just have the bags ready. Just have 2 bags with your passport, your information. I told you guys about 2 weeks ago. I said, have your identification. If you're in California, have that super ID. Have your bank account information, because usually the electronics won't be working for a little while. So bring a little bit of cash. Stick it somewhere where nobody can find it other than you. But make sure that you can get it in a bag. Like, don't put it somewhere. Like, this is not. You shouldn't be living in a situation where you can't trust people with the bag. But keep it in your room where you sleep, because usually earthquakes happen at night. And just grab the bag and go. Let's go. And make sure everybody's up. Because the person who's first ready is the person who has to bring everybody out of the situation and bring them to a area in the house that is safe. Do you know where that is? Do you know how to turn off your gas? Do you know how to make sure that you're not passing live wires? Do you know the emergency route out of the city that doesn't involve interstate? Because if you're in California, don't take the interstate during aftershocks. It's not smart. If they're even there, a lot of times it happens in the dark. What is your emergency dark route path? What is it where you know that there's no lights? I know that the Route 66 in California, and in Los Angeles in particular, Santa Monica, it goes a certain amount of distance. And I know that what if that's not working? What is your route? Because if you're in a car and you're on the interstate and it's dark and you don't know that the bridge is out in front of you and you keep going, well, y'all are all sailing into the hereafter together. So I guess screaming would be involved. But why not just avoid that and know what your route is? Okay, so what if it's a huge earthquake? What if California, it's not going to be the big one. I mean, the big one, we're not going to even have to worry about the conversation. Most people won't. Its survival rate's really low. But let's say it's a big earthquake. Let's say it's like an 8.0 or above, hypothetically speaking. What is the back roads? You don't have to do it all at once. Don't make it overwhelming experience, but do what the turquoise leadership does. Plan it out. Have it ready and do it like as a one-time assignment over the weekend. And then make it around joyful things. So, okay. Don't do it like, don't ever do this, like I would recommend, don't ever do this like right before you're going to do dinner for the family and you're already annoyed that you're going to have to cook. Don't do it then, because then it's just a negative upon a negative. But look at it like from, like let's say you are about to head for work and it's a really good day. It's an early day, it's a Friday, you know you're going to get out early. That's the day that you just start in the morning. And then when you come back, you're a little bit better off and you're like, oh, I'm home. You deal with the kids. And then as they're playing and you're watching TV, you just go, okay, what is the emergency number for this? And then get distracted immediately. And then before you know it, by the end of the day, you will have everything in a checklist. And think about how much better anything would go. Once the inevitable happens, because inevitability is always about there. What is your plan? And it dissipates the darkness. And so suddenly it becomes something a little bit easier to deal with. Now, the biggest thing is your children, right? Like, no one ever wants anything to happen to their child. But then when it comes to this topic, we as a collective have this fear to engage our children in a way that because we think it's going to bring it into existence. But then yet that you're avoiding your intuitive nature. Everyone in California right now is on a total hype alert. Nothing's making sense. Everybody's a little stressed out. We keep having these little tremors and stuff like that. I keep telling everybody it's coming, but nobody wants to listen. But my voice just doesn't. To those of you who hear my message, you always listen all the way through, so I'm very grateful to you guys. But, someone who has the track record of being right that I do, doesn't always get airtime or doesn't always get to be heard by other people, even though I'm always proactive and upbeat about it. Like, I look at it this way. If I do not make it through this earthquake that's coming, my legacy will be one where I was uplifting. Because at a turquoise leadership, isn't that the greatest gift that you can give the world about you? No matter how small you feel or no matter how unheard you've been, your voice will somehow survive if it's built in truth. And I've done something very interesting over my career on YouTube and especially on my LinkedIn articles, is I've written as though I'm not going to be here. I write everything from the standpoint of making sure that the future generations, I follow Leonardo da Vinci's advice, if you will, which is write for the generations to come in case you're not here. That is the true epitome of a legacy. A legacy built in materialism is great, and I totally understand that, and it's a wonderful thing while you're alive, but it doesn't transcend with you. But if you leave a legacy that speaks to a higher vibrational community, a world that may not exist yet, that will immediately find your information because it's on the internet, we're in the clouds. And so if you're in the clouds, you will always be alive if you leave a legacy that transcends the material world, right? And so if you look at all my work, it speaks to the collective consciousness and to this turquoise leadership. And if I don't make it, I did make it. It will be information used at that time. That's one of the great gifts of being in alignment with the divine universe, is to know that I could be exiting. This could be it for me. And why be afraid of that? I'm very proud of my life. And so, instead of gloating about it or trying to fit into the world around me, I had to realize that Turquoise leadership is about the collective. It's not about just us. We do our best to take care of ourselves and our families, but at the end of the day, we're living for something much greater. And the question that I would ask any turquoise leader, part of the vetting, is, do you have to be here for the results of your legacy? Or can you rise above it and just leave a legacy that transcends time? And I think that's important for all of us to remember now. So this weekend, collective, do me a favor. Spend as much time with your loved ones as possible. Go out and enjoy the world. I'm going every day to the fracking beach, and I'm going to tan like crazy. I'm just going to go and absorb as much vitamin D as I want. I really think that brings me a lot of joy in life, and I love the beach. I get to look at hogs. You ever notice, like, when you're hog watching, girls, just for the girls out there, and it's going to be a little quip, but have you ever noticed when you're, like, watching hogs and they're, like, passing you and you're looking, like, below the... We call hog watching is when girls and gay guys will go to the beach and watch guys in stretch pants pass, and we measure? Okay. But have you ever noticed that every now and then you look at, and you, like, you see the face before you see the lower part, and you look at the face and you look and you're like, ooh, hot guy, and then you look down and you go, oh, but he had a pretty face. That's fun. That's fun with the girls. Go ahead and do that. That's really amusing, because for some reason men decide not to wear underwear when they wear stretch pants, and you're just looking at them going, if you're going to show off, a sock might be helpful. And just enjoy it, and make stupid jokes like that. Go and enjoy this weekend, and take your family. Well, I wouldn't go hog watching with the kids. You might send messages to them. But for the gay guys and the girls, go with your gaggle of gays, go with your gaggle of girls, and just have, if you're single, and go and have a Sex in the City weekend. Go and just have cocktails at the park or whatnot, or wherever you can hog watch, and just go hog wild. And if you are a dude, go someplace that makes you and your boys just laugh about old memories. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not pro drugs, but if you're gonna smoke. This is one of those weekends where you should really invest your time in what brings you true joy and in the collective, and to remember that we are all heading to a place in life where God wants something better for us. It just wants something better for the collective. And we're at a point where we have to choose. And the only way I can help anyone assess and how to make this jump here is that it's going to be granted to those that are enjoying life. If you're afraid to live, then you won't make it, right? If you're afraid of this P word and you're unable to go out and take risks and go to a beach and be by yourself and take off the fucking mask, but you're so petrified that you're wearing the mask, then you're probably going to have problems, right? Because you're not enjoying life. You're so afraid of life that you're not living it. And I'm not trying to give everybody medical advice, because of course I'm not a doctor in that way, but I'm giving you soul advice. Because your soul is trying to tell you something. Everyone on this planet is being whispered to right now. And you all know it. And the only unfortunate part that I have is that I feel like I let the collective down. Because I really, I knew a lot, and I've been trying to say a lot. And so if this is my checkout point, I just want you all to know that I did try. I'm really progressive, and I'm really out there, and I see things that people don't see. I'm so connected to the earth. I'm a Mayan and Spanish combo. I have a lot of legacy in me. But that doesn't mean that people understand me. And that's not my fault, and it's not our fault. It just is what it is. And that's the only regret. That's my only true regret as an adult after my mom died. Was that I probably could have done more. But trust me, I did try to get out there into the universe and try to do what I can. And I contacted people. Y'all, if you knew the balls I have. And so I'm proud of that. But I do wish it would have been a little bit easier for the collective. And there is so much joy in this world. There's a lot of us, because I still think I'm going to go through. I still think that because I know I'm anointed, but in a spiritual way, not stepping on anybody's toes in religion or whatnot, because everybody's important. But I know that I have a lot to offer the world, and so as I wait for that chariot to finally come, it may be a chariot where it's a complete reset, and I had to accept that. It could be this fact that it's not this lifetime. Next lifetime will be a reward cycle. What do I choose to do with what I've gone through? And I choose to take all of the darkness, and I choose to make light. And I think that's the best advice I can give you guys. I don't know if you'll ever see this or when you'll see it, but I know that for us as a collective, if you want to live, you must start enjoying life again. It's not going to be these keys to what that happens next. It's not going to be handed to people who can't even break free of imaginary fear. That's why this is happening, is because the collective is petrified of their own shadow. And so the divine universe has decided that it must introduce a common foe to us all to get us all on the same page and to start fighting for our life. Because we were so afraid we didn't bother to enjoy it. If you think about last year, I went to the beach. I saw the face of God every day. There's no one around. I got to go and experience everything I ever wanted to, like there was no one else on earth. Because when this is all said and done, maybe it will be very few people. But I didn't stop living. I enjoyed it even more. I was grateful for every ladybug, every feather that fell on my head, all the birds that I saw. Because I do want to live. I just want a better quality of life. And so I'm willing to go through this transition however it comes to me. But for those of you out there who are in this state of fear, start preparing for a real fear in order to get rid of the fake fear. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to go to the beach for this weekend. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I hope you really, really take my advice and spend time with your husband or your wife. Take the kids out with you. Make sure that you honor each other and listen. Whatever the tirade is, just put up with it for this weekend. Because if all else fails, your consciousness still continues. Remember that. Just a lifetime it ends. Take the memories of each other with you. And especially of your kids. Remember, kids are resilient. What is it you want them to remember about you if something happens? Don't make it morbid. The fear that we have over death is what prevents us from being happy in the moment we go home to Dad. We as a collective need to change that. And that's what the turquoise leadership does. It focuses on the solutions out of darkness, and it brings us all together to rejoice in something much higher than us. There should be no greater joy to us as a race than to know that we have lived our lives well and that we enjoy it every second, so that when we go home to see Dad, his open arms are all we ever need. That is a life of fulfillment. That's all I want to say. You guys have a wonderfully blessed weekend. Enjoy each other. Trust me, and especially in California and the Cascadia area. Just spend time enjoying your life and prepare for the inevitable. The inevitable. Make jokes. Enjoy each other's lives. Remember who everybody is. When you meet strangers, listen to them. Engage them. You never know who will remember the other person. It's always nice to be remembered.